Toy Story 5. Yes, that's right, folks. The fifth installment of the Toy Story franchise, and here, the longest running series in the Pixar oeuvre of movies, and the latest and potentially biggest animated film of the year. It's a good year for animation. A lot of things are doing well. Hopper is surprised, I think, relatively speaking. It did pretty good. Super Mario Galaxy is a bad movie. I'm doing this thing. I've decided in my head I'm going to talk more about the Disney films than I have maybe in previous years. I don't care for the majority of them. And I say this knowing that Moana is coming out in a couple weeks. I don't know if I want to cover that movie because I just generally don't want to watch it. But I do have some interest in the Toy Story universe and in the Pixar project at large. So this is from Andrew Stanton, who has one of the most interesting careers in Hollywood. Makes a lot of really fun movies like Finding Nemo, co-directs A Bug's Life, and WALL-E. Makes John Carter, one of my favorite movies that I've talked about on this channel. Bombs hard, has to go back to the Finding Nemo universe, and then makes another live-action film nobody watched this year. And now he's back, Toy Story 5. Get that cachet, man. Get the money so you can go make your Ray gun like Brad Bird's doing this year. I guess. We'll talk about Ray Gun when it comes out. Yeah, Toy Story 5. I haven't talked about the Toy Story franchise on the channel yet, I don't think in any capacity. I have a very interesting relationship to those movies because, as you can see from the stuff around me, I am a kid who loves toys. I grew up with toys. I love toys. But I was never a Toy Story kid where it was my favorite thing. That's actually how I felt about like a lot of early Pixar. I grew up in that perfect bubble of, you know, Finding Nemo, Monsters, Inc., Cars, and WALL-E were like the big things, and Toy Story, of course, was there as well. I just never had like the huge like connection to it. I had like Happy Meal toys that you'd get at McDonald's, but I never really like was obsessed with them. And I watched these movies relatively recently again. I still haven't seen the fourth one, and I don't know if I'm going to see it. I should, because I'm sure it's fine, but whatever. I'm not like oh man, the trilogy's the best part, you know, you don't need to tell a story again. Like, do it, you know? There is always going to be something else you can talk about with toys, especially the way that the culture has changed with toys, where the primary people buying toys and collectibles and things are adults. So there's something to say about that, and I think they talked about it enough in Toy Story 2, where you don't have to like tell that story again 3 movies in. But that first trilogy is incredible. I think it's some of the best. It's probably the best animated trilogy of all time, maybe the best trilogy of movies ever. The Toy Story 3 is probably my favorite. I would say it is. I watched at a very specific point in my life. Not the first time around, but the last time I watched it, it really impacted me. And it was one of those movies that, like, I really started to feel my age showing, which is such a weird thing to say. But I reached that point where Andy was at, where it's like, do you hold on to these things that made you happy when you were younger, or do you give it to the next generation of child, and how would the things you own feel about that? I say that as everything around me is encompassing me, and when I die, it's probably going to be because one of these shelves fell down and a Donatello bow staff got lodged in my throat. But you know what I mean? Like, you hit that age where these things that you were obsessed with, like cowboys and spacemen, do you outgrow it or do you double down? And I doubled down, but I think just the story of that really worked. And Toy Story's been really good. And Pixar at large, I think, in the early films is really good at. There's enough of the human feeling with, like, the concept we're playing with. They're toys, but they talk like people and behave like people with their own, like, ecosystem. They're fish, but they do that. They're monsters, but they do that. They're bugs, but they do that. And then, you know, fourth one comes out right before COVID. Never watched it. I wanted to see this new one because I'm an Andrew Stanton fan and I've seen all of Andrew Stanton's films. So, let's talk about Toy Story 5. Tech has invaded the Toy Story universe. For the first time ever, we're seeing the ramifications of what if kids had iPads. Which, that is enough to build a Toy Story movie on. Like, that is a sales pitch that if I were a producer or a high up in a studio, I'm like, yeah, you just sold me on this whole premise. How do the toys react when tech invades their home? That's smart. That's clever. It is probably a more clever idea than the execution lends itself to be. Because I don't perfectly love the way this whole movie wraps up its ideas. There is 3 main stories going on. Some of them work really well, like the Jessie stuff where she's understanding like how you have to commune with tech and maybe they are treated the same way as toys, and the abandonment of like being passed along for so many generations. There's the Woody and Buzz subplot of we have to come back together and do a thing to save Jessie. And then there's like the 50 Buzz Lightyears that crash off a cargo ship and they like learn that they're toys. It's a lot of stuff going on. And some of it works, some of it doesn't. And that's just kind of like the Pixar treat right now. It's really interesting how these things ebb and flow. Like Pixar in particular has so many highs and so many lows. And from all the Toy Story movies I've seen, minus the one I didn't, this is easily the worst. I don't say probably, it is easily the worst. Narratively, it's not as interesting, and emotionally, it just doesn't hit those marks. And maybe I'm too cynical and I'm too old, where like I just accept the things around me. But it is still trying to do all those things, and there are like key moments where it does like have those emotional impacts, which I like. 3 moments in particular that stood out to me for like the emotional impact where it's going for something is an end scene with Jessie. Jessie's essentially the main character of this one, where she learns the impact that she had on like her first owner and how her first owner named their daughter after her. And you're like, oh, that is actually an interesting thing to consider, because in today's climate, how many parents are naming their kids after anime characters or naming their kids after comic books they read or, you know, like things they like. It's so common. So that was a really cool sequence where I'm like, oh yeah, I like that. It's actually letting Jessie learn that just because you are not in their lives, that doesn't mean you do not have an impact on it, which is like a key lesson for kids to learn and to understand. You might not know these people for very long or be in their life forever, or these things that you know and have might not be with you forever, but that doesn't mean they don't matter. Nostalgia is a hell of a drug. The other scene I really like that's going for that is the younger technologically made toys, like the Smarty Pants one and like the camera and like the cell phone for kids to play with, where they just wake back up after being like without batteries for a long time and see like the world has evolved. Where it's one of those things where the movie doesn't really fully commit to the idea of technology is making kids grow up too fast, where they kind of say that's the case without actually showing you that. But the idea that we just make these specific toys and trinkets for one moment of your life. Like, you are 6 months old. Here is one little thing you could play with for this time. I have a young niece in my life. We were out to dinner the other day. This kid's maybe 11 months, has a cell phone with Barney on it. 5 months from now, she's not going to play with that. You know? Like these things just come and go out of your life really fast, and actually like personifying that is a smart idea. The one that worked for me the most, though, this might just be because I'm a cynical old man, or because I collect action figures, I don't know, is when all of the Buzz Lightyears like make it to like a campground and one of them gets found by a kid, and they all try to like save this one Buzz Lightyear, but he's like being caressed by this kid and held tight, and the toy is like, I'm good, like this is it, like I'm making this kid happy, I can stay here. And they're like, shit, I guess that's good. Like they learn a lesson to be toys again, which is nice, I think. Which is fine. But this is still about Bonnie. Bonnie gets an iPad, or a lily pad, voiced by Greta Lee. And she's like, hi, I'm going to make her friends because Bonnie's lonely. Because this also has to talk about like the loneliness epidemic that is sweeping between kids. And are they capable of socializing? And how do they feel things or behave? And it's touchy. I think it's always going to be hard to toy that line, no pun intended, between are we making Bonnie too different from other kids, or is this too much of like an old man talking about how everything is different from when he was a kid? It strikes a right balance of both of those, where there is a little bit of like kids in their phones today, they don't actually connect when they're on social media, with the idea that yes, Lilypad is helping. Bonnie is introduced to new people, she's able to communicate with new people, but maybe that isn't all you need to be with somebody or to have them in your life. You actually have to physically and emotionally be around them. That makes so much of the difference, which I like. Another sign I know I'm getting older is because I'm watching The Parents and I'm like, yep, you're reacting exactly how you should. You are confused and hurt and don't know what to do and you want to make your daughter happy, but how do you really get into that? I don't feel the way Bonnie does in this movie, maybe because I'm not a 9-year-old anymore, but I relate to the parents of just kind of being there, understanding she needs this technology. She does need the technology, but she also needs somebody who isn't going to make fun of her for being a 9-year-old who plays with a cowgirl doll. And I don't know a lot of young kids in my real life. I don't know any of them that really play with toys anymore. If they have toys, it is to the effect of, these are things I want to keep and display on a shelf. Which I was like that when I was a kid too. Everything around me, I would play with them sometimes, but they were always like on like my bed frame. I'm like, I'm just going to keep you here on the windowsill so I can look at you and feel good about the stuff I own. Which in itself is like a bad thing, and we don't make a lot of children's toys anymore, and everything's just kind of bad. Kids should be allowed to play with stuff, and I'm sure they do. It gets to a point where it's like, is the iPad helping, or is not having the iPad helping? And it's a fine line to strike between the two. This movie does a good enough job of finding that balance where the toys and the technology have to come together, which they do. You have to have both. To exclude one would be wrong. There is such a fine line to bridge there. So it's cohesive enough where, yeah, I think that's the most mature way to handle it. Is this funny to kids, though? I unfortunately, I will say this, I saw this in an adults-only theater, which is like, an 18-plus VIP that they have at Cineplex. Not a full house, but it definitely played to an older crowd, maybe because these are characters that have been around for 30 years, so suddenly it's like nostalgic. But I'm very happy that it doesn't go for like the nostalgic baity jokes or thoughts. And that's clever. Like, good. Have an idea and stick to it. Now, the animation for this franchise has changed a lot over the course of 30 plus years. And we just saw the trailer for the new Shrek movie, which I will talk about when it comes out next year. I will say this, it's cleaner and crisper, and maybe because of that, it loses some of the effect of it looking like actual toys, and it's more like stylized characters. But even though that is how I feel, when they have a human run in the room, when they all freeze up and turn into actual toys, oof, that still hits. That still works really well. Still looks good. The voice acting in this movie, too, is really good. I think everyone does a good job. It is essentially like a Joan Cusack-led movie, and she hasn't done a lot of work, between Toy Stories. I love her. I think she's funny. I think she's charming. And this is Jessie really coming to terms with the life that she knows she's a part of now and what is her place in it. It's smart and it's clever, and she does a really good job of voicing that. Tim Allen and Tom Hanks it's the hits. They're good at it. They're capable of saying these lines. Not a lot of like Woody doing stuff. He could maybe not even be in the movie and the outcome would be pretty similar. And if you replaced him with like the other toys that Buzz is hanging out with, which is fine. It does use less of the legacy toys and more of like the new ones, which I think is fine because Conan O'Brien voices a potty training thing called Smarty Pants. And when he doesn't have his batteries fully charged, he is drunk. And it is a performance. It is not the Conan O'Brien thing. He's trying something. And I think he's just really talented. I really like him. And Greta Lee, high off of the success that was Tron Ares, is voicing Lilypad, which again, pretty good. Get that work, girl. Get that money. You've earned it. Play an iPad for a kid that's socially awkward. I do like the kids in this as well. There's a new one named Blaze, who's like a horse girl. She has a lot of like horse toys. And horses can't talk, but they're sentient. And it opens up a whole dialogue of like, what's a sentient toy or not? Because why can the piggy bank talk, but not the horse? I guess it doesn't matter. There is like a sequence where they're playing toys, and Bullseye has the voice of Alan Cumming, and he's evil, and I think that's kind of clever. That's cute. No one's ever thought to make the horse the bad guy so he could talk, so that's funny. It's cute. It's cute. It's so fucking funny or whatever. I don't know. Yeah, the kids learn that they can be friends and, they can text, but they can also, like, have their toys get fake married. Oh, yeah, the weird plot where Buzz wants to propose. Why do toys want that? What is marriage to a toy? Like, you're already in the same... You have no... You would have no grasp on what to do if, say, they got rid of Buzz but kept Jessie. Would they still be married? Would Buzz have to come back to find his wife? They kiss? Have they kissed? I think they've kissed before, right? What would that feel like? It's just plastic hitting each other. I don't know. I understand Woody, like, left in the fourth one because his mission was to save more toys and he was no longer part of Bonnie's crew or whatever. But he was, like, with Forky for a bunch of it. Whatever. There's enough where I think kids will be happy and parents will be like, yeah, that was smart. It's not, like, great. And it does feel like this could just be, you know, an email. Like, this whole movie could have been an email where someone's like, what if we did, like, a short on Disney Plus that's 25 minutes long where, Bonnie gets an iPad and the kids have to learn to work to... And the kids have to learn to communicate and the toys have to learn to communicate with the tech. You could have done either way. But, we'll probably get Toy Story 6. Let's focus on a different character. So we did Woody and Buzz, and we did Jessie. Who's the next one we should focus on? What's like an outdated toy? I don't know. Whatever. It's fine. So, Toy Story 5. I am going to give a 6 out of 10. Now, thank you all for watching this video. Be sure to like and subscribe to the channel. And of course, I will catch you in the next one. Have fun. Stay safe. Good luck.